Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. A little disclaimer. I'm the queen of disclaimers because डरपोक थोड़े से हैं उस generation के. I'm not a PhD yet. Let this be manifestation. I'm not an MD. Dr. Mizaji was a term concocted by one media house. Mizaji was something that my husband through AI found about 2 years back. A very, very dear friend of mine, I'm not going to name drop, but the biggest in the industry, said to me, Mariam, finally just do it already. So we got together and we put everything together on social media. And well, I don't know. Dr. Mariam Mizaji is separate from me. I'm just Mariam Khalid Shams, a mother, a social scientist, a flailing social scientist at that. Economics department doesn't claim me as being economist enough. The history department says I haven't done history at my undergrad, so clearly I can't be a historian. The only university willing to bet on me right now is University of Warwick, because they've decided that they can have two supervisors, one from history and one from wherever they can find one. Too much information at this point. Okay, I'm rambling. So why am I here? Context. I am a social scientist. I trained at LSE London. I'm not going to say it. I have to behave. This is recorded. And at University of Manchester. So yes. And unlike some of us here, I did get offered a job at the IMF. Let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. I was offered a job at the IMF, which for a development economist is probably the highest posting you can get. I don't know why. After a lot of, which I can't reveal right now because there's younger kids sitting here also, come up and come to university and we can talk about, after a lot of self-reflection, it dawned upon me, some snickers there, so that means you got what I was saying. After a lot of self-reflection, it dawned upon me that it was my decision to say no to IMF. I used to blame it on my father, my husband, the patriarchy, but it was me. I sat and said, no, I can't join you. I wonder what happened. And to date, that's one of those things that I have not been able to reconcile with. So, whoever says move on, it's very difficult to move on. My mother was my primary caregiver, although I was always my father's daughter. I'm still my father's daughter. I have something called patriarchal empowerment, which means that I am an empowered woman who can drive the badi gadi, with a license, who is commanding her space on this stage and a lot of other stages in my life. But my empowerment is because I have toed the line. I've been a good girl. I have never rebelled against the system. I've always been about the action. The word justuju in my life is so embedded that at one point I used to think the women in my family are mad because there was always something that they were doing. Nobody was sitting and peeling oranges and sitting and reading a book. That was just frowned upon. Even if you were reading a book, it was with a purpose. And I think maybe it had something to do with our demographic at the time. I come from, one of my grandmothers became a very young widow. Both grandmothers, and see, I talk so much about women, but growing up, I was my father's daughter. I always thought I could align with the men, but when you cross 40, how many of you can relate? All of a sudden, all that generational trauma, it just kind of comes out from somewhere. So while I've had the queen's life, I'm still continuing to, there's my husband holding my bag. That's how empowered I am, ladies and gentlemen. The car is in my name, but I still feel that it took me all of 40 years to realize that what my grandmothers were going through, and I never even asked them about what the great-grandmothers were going through. That's something, I'm going to use this space. My mother passed away 2 years ago, and there's been a lot of, there was a lot of hate, love. As with all mothers and all eldest daughters, I was the eldest. She did not know how to raise me because she was not raised herself. She did not have a childhood. Does that make sense? How many of you have actually have had that experience with your mothers, where you're just like, can't you just relax and be? Yes, thank you. I'm relating to, the younger generation, if you can't relate to it, is because your moms are doing a fantastic job of unlearning and then learning. So, but I'm not going to berate the women because they did what they knew, which was action. Justuju. हर वक्त कोई जुस्तजू थी, ठीक है? वो पढ़ाई की जुस्तजू, वो नैपकिन फोल्डिंग की, वो सालन सही भूनने की, डिबेट की. Even if I was playing sport, I had to be the best. There was no option there to fail. There was no option there, wasn't there? I mean, and therefore, so the more women I'm coming into interaction with now, I'm starting to feel that we're always thinking we're not enough. Let me list down my LinkedIn profile. I've been a mother for over 22 years. I just gave birth 6 years back at the age of 40 without an epidural. So that's my accomplishment, right? That should be enough success standards and all of that. I'm a small business owner, something I can't talk about here. No, it's not selling pictures on internet. Oh, they're not going to call me again, are they? So I'm a business owner. I think I'm a fairly successful wife that my husband lets me handle the finances. Yeah, I'm an economist, I'm a social scientist. I've taught at IBA Karachi, I've taught at Indus Valley, I've taught at LUMS. I've taught at smaller places also. I have won the Sirajuddin poetry competition at Lakas. Yes. And mind you, I was not from Lakas, if that makes any sense. So I've done it all. And I look this good. Come on. And I did not always look this good. And I'm going through something that we call perimenopause. Which, because our generation never talked about the monthly cycle, we will never talk. I just met a friend and he's like, TMI, bro. And I'm like, what TMI? 50% of the population of the women of the population of the world goes through this transition where we don't know where our words are. And then, so I'm a woman of words and action. Without my words, there's no action. And my words have left me. And I don't know what to do. So why aren't we talking about it? Another time, another day, we're going to talk about it. Let's come back to Mizaji. What happened? I believe that Mizaji is a consolidation of all that the women in my life have been trying to do. It's a restorative energy. Mizaj se nikla hai Mizaji. Mariam Mizaji. It was a very technically marketing-oriented thing. No, your name should be there. Again, this is the person who's been counseling me. And it should be something local, but something that can be international. So it has a very Japanese sound to it. Mizaji. And then, so she's separate from me, you must realize. And then comes along this whole thing that, am I enough? So after doing all of this, the only thing that I feel like I should be doing also is complete my PhD. How many of you can relate to that? That there's always something more. The men are not thinking it. There's no man in this room, thank you. There's no man. Okay, the time's running out. Better come down to why I'm here. I'm here as Dr. Mariam Mizaji. And what is Mizaji about? She's a wardrobe solution specialist. What is a wardrobe solution specialist? It is somebody who tries to find solutions to the problems that you're having within your own wardrobe. Now, for some of us, that might be a very frivolous way to end this evening where we've had my esteemed colleagues today. But I want you to really think hard about it. Did you not put thought into what you were going to wear today? Was that not your best self, your best skin, the most appropriate shoes? I even brought a pair of shoes because I knew there were stairs, so I was changing them in the back. And when we berate the existence of having the perfect outfit for the perfect occasion, the word here we're looking for, ladies and gentlemen, is appropriate. The appropriate outfit. Now, when we're talking about the demographic that's in this room, it becomes about fashion, it becomes about her boots, it becomes about the charcoal gray, it becomes about the bling. But I want you to go beyond this. I want you to think of appropriate outfits being the dignity that every human should be afforded. This is something I borrow from Amartya Sen. Yes, I went to school. And he talks about capabilities and functioning and poverty being slightly more than roti, kapda, or makan. So I'm not downplaying roti kapra makan. But what I'm saying is, wearing the right outfit can give you wings. Wings that all of us need. I was at WOW Festival. How many of you attended that? I was there as Dr. Mariam Mizaji, and one question I started asking people, because their theme was Surkhab, I started asking people, what is that one outfit that gives you wings? Ladies and gentlemen, this is completely informal data. There is no statistical backing to what I'm about to say. Pakistani cis men don't need clothes to feel empowered. Yes. One even said, I feel the most empowered without clothes. Having said that, the women and the heterodox, they flagged me down. They talked about their mums' gararas, their husbands' jackets, their fathers' bombers. They talked about outfits that would give them wings to do what they were supposed to do. That. You have to act, but you need your armor. And what is the armor? Every occasion will be different. So when I don't wear a shawl, because I believe my lifestyle is not that of a begum yet, but I envy the women who wear shawls, because then I'm like, what about my arms? I need them. So I put on a coat. How many of us wear a coat and feel great and amazing because we feel empowered? Because now we can take on the world. So there's an exercise that I do. I've been teaching for over 23 years. I realize over this time I've kind of let my age slip a bit. Yes, I'm nearly 46. And how fantastic do I look? This confidence, okay, for all of you who must be thinking she's so full of herself, this confidence is very new. It's because I've decided to act now and own the space that was given to me rather than apologize. So this is new. That's why I'm kind of showing it off. An exercise I do with almost every classroom, I want you to take that. I was told I have to give some homework. This is homework. And I teach undergrad and postgrad. I need outfits. If you can think of an outfit in your wardrobe for the following 3 activities. You have to, and you have an hour, you have to get home, you have to get dressed and meet that person. 1 hour, commute time laga le usme. Istri bhi nahi, istri hui bhi ho kapdon pe. First, a walk with a person of your dreams, dead or alive. Okay, think about it. This is homework. 2, an interview of your dreams. At any age, do you have that outfit? You get the call from the employer of your dreams right now. Text aata hai, email aati hai, call aati hai. Do you have that outfit in your cupboard? Do you know where it is? Do you know which pair of shoes you're going to wear with it? Do you know which pair of socks you're going to wear with it? And no matter what they're saying, socks are in. Okay? Please, you heard it here. And third, if the person of your dreams calls you or texts you and takes you out on something that we refer to as a dream date, do you have the perfect outfit for that? Right? One outfit. Okay. So this is homework, ladies and gentlemen. And while it comes across as frivolous, not relating to us, the clothes we wear are a way for our culture and for our heritage to move forward to the next generation. There was conscious thought put behind this. There was another outfit in mind, and then, of course, because women, bloating, it didn't fit, or didn't fit the way I wanted it to fit. So I didn't wear it. But every time you choose an outfit, you don't know it, but you're putting your best foot forward. You're putting the skin on that you want to show the world. And with that skin on, I'm sure you're going to do just about anything. Thank you.